Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
Hey, Burn Nation, and welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I have the second of 4 Burn Athlete Champion interviews today. Today is the female Masters Division champion for 2024, Amber Bellows. Amber, welcome to the podcast. Oh,
Hello.
my goodness. What an impressive display of physical prowess and mental determination. You've had a couple weeks for it to settle now.
I have.
How does it feel to be the champion?
Well, first of all, thank you so much and for having me on here. It's still a little bit surreal, to be honest, but it feels great. It feels really cool to just represent the brand and to just have like the community just behind me. And it feels like a community win. Like it's not just for me, it's so much bigger than myself. So it's very cool.
So you joined Verona, Wisconsin as a member in February 18, and you were hooked right away.
Oh yeah.
You loved it so much that you became a trainer in the summer of 2021. What led you to that decision in the first place?
So I used to coach competitive cheerleading, and our gym didn't survive COVID. So aside from my full-time job, I had a little extra time. So the other trainers kind of convinced me like, hey, I think you'd be a really good burn trainer. So I, decided to give it a try and haven't looked back. I love it so much. So
You've been an athlete pretty much your whole life. You were a cheerleader for the Milwaukee Bucks for 3 years as well. Is that correct?
yeah, I was. That was a pretty cool experience.
Go into that real quick. How did your athletic background, cheerleading, was that the only competitive sports you played? And excuse me, what led you to the Bucks?
So I did quite a lot of sports when I was younger. High school, I did cross country, gymnastics, track, all while doing competitive cheer through club. And then I went on to cheer in college, UW Milwaukee. And then the Milwaukee Bucks started a stunt and tumble team. And just being in Milwaukee, my friends and I were like, let's try out. And we did, and we made it. And it was pretty cool. We did about 10 games a season. And yeah, that was an awesome experience.
So you've always been competitive.
I have.
Right. And so the athlete games is right up your alley. You were on the world stage and a competitive cheer team at the age of 28. And so this is like in your bones to be competitive. So when you first heard about the athlete games, let's say you became a trainer in 2021, and then you competed for your first time in 2022. And then you were kicking absolute butt in 2023. We'll talk about the double unders of 2023, your arch nemesis. But then the rebound, dominating them in 2024, and finally taking home the crown. Did you feel after 2023 like it was so right there? Explain to us what happened in the 2023 games. And I have an intimate moment I remember with you and I. I'm not sure if you remember it, but I'll share that. But from your perspective, 2023 left a sour taste in your mouth, I'm sure, from a certain perspective. Although you had fun and all the good things,
So
you were up and then you were down. So.
From 1st to 16th, it's that easy. But it's a little bit bittersweet because I loved the workouts last year, and I knew I could do really well at all of them except for the dubs. And I think a lot of it was mental. Most of it was mental, actually. There was a lot of shoulder heavy exercises last year, and my left arm just likes to give out on me when it's very, very fatigued. And I really, really let that get to me inside of my head. And so it ended up with me chipping away at 200 double unders for about 5 minutes while everyone else was done. But once I was done, I had people messaging me from around the country and saying, way to not give up, way to not chuck your rope across the room and, you know, like throw a fit and all those kinds of things. And I had members say, my girls were watching you and they watched you not give up. And that's better than you crushing that workout. And so going back, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't have it end any other differently just because of the people that I inspired through that happening.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and so as you kind of in the 2023 games and you have these bittersweet type emotions, you know, you were emotional because you're such a competitor and you had the fire in you and it was right there, right in front of you, and you had this one obstacle, the double unders that you just weren't connecting on them in 2023. And like you said, you didn't give up. You had I'm so proud of the attitude that you brought to that. But you came up to me afterward. Do you remember what you said?
I'm going to come back next year and be even better. I don't know. I'm
No,
not
no, no.
sure.
You said you grabbed me by both of my shoulders. You grabbed me like this. You were like 2 inches from my face, and you go, "I'm practicing double unders every day, and I'm gonna win next year." And that's exactly what you said to me. And you didn't just say I'm
Very,
gonna come back. You said I'm gonna win next year. And then so fast forward, and I want to get your reaction, your take on the moment when you won, but I want to give the audience my perspective first. So I'm down and I'm sitting kind of right behind you, off to maybe like your 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock side, as you're finishing the final workout, which is Sorry for the Wait. And you were one of the more strength skilled competitors, and so I
Mhm.
knew that this one was going to be right up your alley. But here comes those nasty double unders, and right
Yep.
before you bought in with a tricep press push up superset, 2 rounds of 10 each, and then you had 50 doubles, and then you had your forward lunges with the squats, 2 rounds each for 10 reps, and then buy out with the double unders, and then buy out with another round of the push. So it was kind of this pyramid style workout, and I remember it very specifically. I knew you and I were probably the only two people in the building that knew you were going to win before it actually came down to it. And I start seeing you on your first set of doubles, and you just click all of them, just back to back, whack, whack, whack. You just got them all in a row. The second time you did doubles, you stopped at 39 was my count. I was counting your doubles because I was right there. You tripped up at 39. You backed up and your head went down. That's the body language of like, uh-oh, I'm about to go negative emotionally. You went down, you looked at the ground, and then you looked right back up, straight forward, like almost like right through the wall. Nobody was even in the room. You took 2 steps forward, like as if to say, I'm about to dominate these. And then you hit your last 11, no problem, and then breeze through the end and won. And I have a video of your mother and your family. They were right there
Yeah.
watching you win, and she's like, and I pan up to her, like, and she's in the right side of my camera. She's like, "Oh my goodness!" Right? And
Yeah.
so, take me back to the moment when, at least from my perspective, I knew you were gonna win as soon as your eyes went forward and you went locked in laser beast mode on the rest of those double unders. What was going on there emotionally? What was your thought process? Like, slow me down as slow as you can into that 5 seconds where a lot was on the line.
So, well, when I saw the workout, I looked at it and I was, you know, a couple swear words went through my mind. But then I was like, all right, I'm going to give myself a minute to process this. And then I was like, you know, I'm going to decide if I'm going to win this or not in my head because I know I have the strength. I can do that. I can power through. But mentally, I have to tell myself that I can do this. And so I think when I was tripping up, it was kind of like, are you going to do this or are you not? What are you going to tell yourself in this moment? And so I just took a deep breath and it was like, you can do this. You're going to do this. We are going to do this right now. And it was just all positive thoughts. And I tell our members that all the time. How you talk to yourself matters. And last year, I think I had a lot of negativity in my own head. So this year, it was all positive. It was like, I'm going to do this. You can trip up. That's fine. We're going to keep going. And that's what I did.
It's such an amazing example of resiliency too, and like mental strength and endurance, because this is a full year in between. It's kind of like when you lose you're like lose game 7
Yeah.
of like the World Series or something, or like, you get to the final soccer match and you lose, like, or you're so close, you can taste it, and that's almost like worse than just getting blown out, right? And like, because you were so close, you could taste it, you had the the grasp right there, and then you have to wait an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked at me and said you were going to go attack these doubles, and based on your performance in 2024, you did just that. So what is the relationship to kind of that failure, the hard work and the work ethic, and then coming out a year later and then being able to show what you've been doing behind the scenes for a whole year? Like what does that mean to you? And then what do you hope that members take from that?
Um, so I think Matt Morris said this, but you can't work on something and expect it to change overnight. Um, I, I mean, my doubles have been up and down for a while, but it's practicing them, but it's also how you talk to yourself and telling yourself you can do it and letting that doubt go and letting that fear go. And just taking the time and the patience to keep trying, because you're not going to get better every single day. I mean, you are, but you're going to take steps back as well. And so it's when you take those steps back, remembering to keep going and keep trying and keep practicing day in and day out, no matter what kind of days you have.
And you have your obviously your greater Burn family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have like your family,
Yeah.
and your mom's reaction to you winning was literally priceless. I hope that you got
Yeah,
a chance to see
I
that
I
video.
did.
She was thrilled. What reactions did you have to that whole experience?
My mom's been there from the beginning. After I made finals the first year, I remember she turned to my dad and was like, "I'm going to North Carolina. I don't know if you are, but I'm going." And so to have her there with me and to just see every year just how I've changed and progressed and everything I've gone through, it was really, really special to just share that with her and have her there. And she's a Burn member too. She competes in level up games. She's in her 60s. I crush her in camp. And so it's
Oh,
cool. She understands Burn. She understands what it means, the family, the grit, all of that. So it was really special to have her there and very emotional.
and what did your boys and your husband have to say? Did you guys share a special word that meant a lot to you? Were you able to get on the phone, FaceTime them right away, and
Yeah.
see their
Yeah,
faces?
yeah. My husband would send me videos of my little 4-year-old like yelling at the TV and all that kind of stuff. So immediately, I just wanted to talk to them, and they were just so proud. They were watching the entire time, so that was very, very special because I knew they were back home, and I had that in my head too, just knowing they were watching.
Yeah, and they were watching with tens of thousands of others over the course of a couple days. What type of support did you get from Burn Nation? Greater Burn Nation, the locations, the members that you don't even know, the ones that are far away. I'm sure they were very congratulatory toward you and also inspired by you. What was maybe one of your favorite things that somebody had shot your way?
Um, I mean, there is an outpouring of messages after, but I think honestly, my favorite is the athletes and us communicating before the games. Yeah, we're competing against each other, but it's really against ourselves. And we were just messaging with each other, like Katie Burke and I, like, "Hey, how are your hands doing?" Tips and tricks of, "Hey, this works for me on this workout. This doesn't work for me. Like, what are you doing on this?" And just doing that with so many competitors. Like, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" Um, and I think that's what makes the game so special, is that you don't really get that in any other sport.
Yeah, pull on that thread a little bit. Talk to me about the athlete culture. I was talking to Will, who
Mhm.
you would be the second interview of the four champions, and everybody. Chuck and Liza are coming soon. Don't worry. I know that you're out there waiting for them. But today, I would like to ask you, Amber, from your perspective. Will obviously has his own. I'm sure they're similar, but what is your perspective of that culture within the culture within the culture? Right? You have Burn, and then you have
Mhm.
trainers, and then you have competitors, and then you have those who make the finals, and it seems to be like obviously the best athletes are they have a career, if you will, in terms of competition, and so you tend to see for 3 4 5 years the similar faces. You're going through it not just in 2024, in 2021 is when Will started, you in 22 23, so you've been there now 3 years
Yeah.
even with Will. And just talk to me about that culture, how tight you guys have really become, and why you think from your perspective that's important for Burn Nation as a whole.
So being there for 3 years, coming in 2020, yeah, 2022. Yeah. I was terrified. And I think there were competitors that reached out to me before finals, like, "Hey, how are you doing? How's your training going?" And I was like, "Oh, this is different." They're reaching out to me. As soon as I got there, it was like everyone was just kind of family and supportive and like, "Hey, take some deep breaths," all that kind of stuff. And after just feeling that my first year, that's what mostly brought me back. Like, I'm a competitor, but I want to keep competing in the games because I love the family that I've made and the other competitors. And just being there for each other. Like Megan Lafferty, she gave me grip rip or like rip something that for my hands after I ripped my hands. And she just was taking care of me. And, her and I are like the top two through the games. And that's the kind of camaraderie that we have. We take care of each other. We lift each other up. We support each other because we want to do our best for ourselves, but we also want those other people to do their best as well.
Yeah, and Burn Nation sees that because you got your actions, and they see it because you're on a live stream pretty much the whole time. Uh, and by the way, you're an incredible interview. Wendy and Trish had nothing but amazing things to say about that. But we get to see it all unfold, and your actions, you, Megan, the rest of the athletes, both in regionals and at finals. Our members get to see that and emulate that in a way. As a trainer member relationship, it is very similar to a player coach relationship, right? That you, like, as a, let's say, a baseball player, or even as a cheerleader, right? Or even as a football player, and even as a basketball player, you want to win for the coaches that you respect, right? As a member, I want to represent what my coach and I talk about physically, mentally, emotionally, or my trainer and I talk about. I want to do well for them too, myself for sure. We can move hills by ourselves for ourselves, but we can move mountains for others with others.
Absolutely.
And you just see that show up in Burn Nation. And I'm sure when you get back home and you get back on the mic for the first time, yeah, there's an experience there. What was that experience like? Your first first time on the mic after Athlete Games Championship?
I cried a lot. I stepped on the floor, and I think I trained mostly Tuesday PM camps, and I stepped on the floor every single camp, and everyone just erupted in applause, and you can just feel the love and the support. And I had actually someone come up to me today at camp this morning, and they were like, "I haven't seen you since the games. Congratulations." And she was like, "It felt like I won." And I was like, "You did. Like, this is so much bigger than myself. Our community won. Like, all Bird Nation as a whole just feels like everybody wins. And because we just all support each other and we're there for each other. And that's really what Burn is about, just lifting each other's up."
So we had 400 competitors, Amber. I don't know if you know these numbers. We have almost 3,000 trainers in Burn Nation. We want to make this event as big as we possibly can. We want to have the best venues we can, the biggest prize money we can. I'm not going to tell you behind the scenes right now because I think Morgan might slap me on the hand if I let it out publicly at this moment in time. But we're talking about future huge prize money for our athletes as an incentive, and as a how would you say, a nod and a respect to the value that this brings to the organization and the perseverance and the dedication required from athletes. It's not free to do. It's not free to put your body through that. So we had a $2,000 prize, and let's just say I want to change that by orders of magnitude. Outside of that, what advice would you have for the trainers of Burn Nation who might be on the fence? They might, whether you're on a member who becomes a trainer, you can speak to that, or you are a trainer who wants to step up and go be an Athlete Games, or you're a member that wants to step up and go be a part of Level Up Games. Like, what advice do you have for them? Because it's obvious we're staring down the face of something really difficult, and we're looking almost at it like it's a mirror of ourselves. Like, I'm afraid to do this because it might show me a flaw or two, and what would your advice be to overcome that, step up and go do it, and why?
Do something that scares you. I'm sure every single person who's walked through the doors of Burn, that first day was probably terrifying. And now it could be their life and just something that they couldn't live without. And look at it like that. It's going to be a challenge, but without challenge, you don't change. And but you taking that step and doing that, it could inspire someone else to do the same, or to take a leap somewhere else in their life, and to do something that could change them. And you really learn a lot about yourself. I feel like I have gained so much mental toughness, and just positive self-talk over the past year, just from competing in the games last year and this year. Like, my mental state was so different, and I had so much fun, and I loved it. And I mean, I feel like that radiates through my entire life now too. But do something that challenges you. You'd be surprised of what the outcome is.
Yeah, so if it scares you, that's probably a sign, a trigger that you should go lean into that rather than run away
Absolutely.
from it, because when you're in it is when all the magic happens.
It is,
I
yes.
love that. So as you talk about winning in 2024, obviously the games aren't won on the day in that weekend in October. They're not won then; they're won in the preparation.
Hmm.
We always talk about the 5 P's here. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And if you anticipate the future and you visualize the outcomes and you know then what you have to do today to get to where you want to be tomorrow, uh, now we are. Now what we're doing is preparing ourselves for victory. We're walking in the building expecting to win rather than playing not to lose. And I'd like to get your thoughts on preparation
Hmm.
for the finals. I'm going to dive into this topic with each of the athletes because it is so personal, but it's also there's similarities. And because I anticipate Burn Athlete Games growing, I want trainers to be able to run this tape back as they're preparing and say, "Oh, what did Amber say in the Burn Bootcamp podcast about her preparation?" I know, like, just top line, and then you can dive into this. You didn't go balls to the wall on some, like, deprivation diet. You had zero
No.
to minimal alcohol. You had inserting finals exercises into the camps you took. You trained with other Verona trainers on the days that you guys could get together. Like, explain those strategies, put them all together for us. Like, try to articulate it as if it was a plan that somebody else might be able to follow.
Yeah. So I wasn't quite sure if I was going to compete this year originally after 2023. My body was beat up. I didn't know. But in the back of my mind, as soon as the past year's games are over, that's when I'm starting to train again. And that starts with just treating your body right. And every camp that you take needs to be intentional. Like, I'm telling, Claire, who did regionals and wants to make it to finals next year, I was like, your training starts right now for next year's games. And every camp that you take needs to be intentional, and be intentional with your workouts, every movement that you do, like, challenge yourself with the heavy weights and all that. And that's what I did every single camp. And then, before regionals and finals, taking those exercises and different moves and putting those into the camps as well. Cause I mostly just take camp. And so things that I needed to work on, I would put that in a camp. Like leg day, I'd put in, the front squats and stuff like that. And then getting together with the other trainers when we had the time. And that's where we really pushed each other too.
Did you guys ever run a simulation of the 2 days? Did you ever break up the workouts and try them in their entirety, or did you pretty much stick to inserting the core movements inside of camps when you could?
For regionals, we did like a simulation where we did all 3 workouts in a row. For finals, we did not. We did all of the workouts. I actually couldn't do the first workout because of a pain that I had going down my leg. So the first time I did that fully was during the games, which was
Oh, wow.
terrifying. Yeah.
Which one was that?
Don't eat it.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
The box jump
Yep.
one?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those front
yeah.
squats, I had like a really bad shooting pain that would go down my leg every time I would practice, to the point where I just could not do them. So saw the chiropractor a bunch of times beforehand and the weeks leading up. And that helped immensely. But that was a little bit more terrifying going into it because I need to know what I'm preparing for. So, but otherwise, yeah, in camps, I mean, all of us trainers too, we just love to destroy each other. So,
Mhm.
just pushing each other, like, hey, you need to work on that for the games. Like, I'm going to push you hard. And yeah.
Yeah, that is totally. I'm glad you called that out. That's totally a part of the burn culture. I was on a California trip in Poway doing leg day, Poway, California, and then outside of San Diego, and then went up to Oceanside. And I usually don't do doubles, and I don't preach doubles, but if I'm on a 5-day California trip and I get one chance to work out with the crew and I'm doing 2 gyms in a day, I'll recover and eat my sweet potatoes and do the whole 9 yards
Yeah.
so I can get a second workout in. But it was a third workout this trip because I walked in and the trainers from Oceanside had their jump ropes ready to do the strength and conditioning assessment, and they were just like, you don't have a choice. Grab your rope. You're going to do it. And they were so fired up to compete with each other, to your point. Like, that's just part of, athletes games culture takes that to a whole new level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the trainer culture in general, is this accountability to demanding more out of each other than any one of us will demand out of ourselves or something like that.
Yep.
And so you feel that, and you couldn't. I'm imagining your perspective is you couldn't do this without the other Verona trainers that are there pushing you to the limits.
Oh yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, especially doing the workouts themselves, I give major props to all of the athletes that had to work on those on their own. We always did them together. There were at least 2 of us, and we would just, during the middle of the workouts, we'd scream for each other, like, come on, don't stop. Or if someone put down the weights, I'd be like, you pick those up right now. Those weights do not touch the floor. And we're just yelling at each other the entire time. If one of us finishes first, we go over to the other. We just scream for them, encourage them, and we don't let them stop until they finish.
I love that. It's very similar to like a fight camp. And like, it's really
very
like,
aggressive.
it's like, not that our audience is necessarily the same audience as like the UFC or anything, or boxing audience, but it's very much like that. You guys
Mm-hmm.
have that, and you're starting to form that naturally in the athlete games. And I want to encourage other trainers throughout Burn Nation to follow suit, because you guys out of Wisconsin, you produce so many champions, and it's because you're working hard together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the expectation and the accountability becomes an actual ability individually, because they're pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. And and it's very similar to a fight camp where everyone, there might be there might be 5 fighters or 5 athletes. Maybe 2 of them are going to go compete, but the other 3 are there, really working hard, pushing them, challenging them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting to see that. Did that formulate just naturally? Like, what advice would you have for those trainers who are maybe entered the game solo from their area? How to network, how to get out and find other athletes that are doing it, encourage each other, sign up together, like go on the journey together. What's your advice?
Yeah, sign up together. Otherwise just there were members too. I know last year that wanted to do the workouts with us. Like, hey, if you're going to do these, I'd love to do them with you. Have people that want to do them with you, and just push each other, and just keep encouraging each other. And when one person stops, like, don't let them.
So you've now been here as on the mic since 2021. I'd like to turn our attention to maybe a story that jumps to the top of your mind. Maybe somebody that you're thinking about as motivation. Maybe it's a member, maybe it's a child, maybe it's both, maybe it's a mom who's been there the whole time. Back to the whole we can move mountains together. We can't do as much for ourselves as we can do when we're motivated by also doing it for ourselves and someone else we really care about,
Mm-hmm.
right? It compounds that energy that we have toward whatever the outcome is. So when you think of like a story that motivates you, or, or just a general transformation story of a member, as an example of why you do what you do, why you put that mic on, why you step on into the arena as an athlete. Tell me how that's specifically impacted somebody in your life and made their life better just watching you.
I've had people come up, like, who have had injuries, and I have a lot of people talk about last year, and they're like, you didn't quit during those double unders. I didn't want to come to camp today because I was restricted because I have this knee injury, but you didn't quit, so I don't want to quit either. And I showed up, and I feel better because I did that. And I honestly have had so many people talk about those double unders, and that's why I would never change that, because people have said, you didn't quit. I wanted to give up during the station today, but I didn't, because you didn't stop. And so thank you for
Wow.
that. Thank you for giving me that inspiration. And so it's like you may think that something is a failure, but I think of last year as a win in my book because of everyone that I've inspired because of that.
Yeah, that's profound, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
that profound? It's like
It
you win the championship and actually people care more about how you handled yourself in the face of
mhm.
defeat when you could have embodied something
Yeah.
malevolent and you didn't. You embodied something that was who we are at Burn. Wow, that's cool. And that's been pretty much consistent throughout the last year.
Yeah, yeah. I still have people
Wow.
come up to me like, my girls can't wait to watch you in the games this year. They watched you last year. They loved how you didn't stop, and you're such a good role model. And that's that's what helps kind of keep me the person that I am. Where it's like people are watching you, and you're a role model for other people, and keep being inspiring. You really never know who's looking up to you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Gosh, wow, that's I didn't think you were going to say that the loss actually was the most impactful thing for people when you have the crown and you are retaining champion or standing champion right now. But it is very telling. That's why I think it's profound. It's telling of
Hmm.
how we need to act when we're could potentially be at our worst.
Yep,
That's when true character comes out, and people remember that. They might not be able to
absolutely.
language why they remember that, but they remember that more than they remember anything else, right? Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so let's see what's next for you. You have the title. You could literally hold it over your head right now, and nobody else's paws are on it but yours. Once a champion, always a champion. Um, you're here 3 years in a row at the finals. Will made his declaration on his he's going to move to more of a maybe a player coach. I'm still not never saying I'm never saying never, but
Hmm.
he's now that he's won it after doing it for 4 years, he said it's time for him to retire from the games. What do you think, Amber? What's the future for you? Are you going to go defend the championship, or are you going to go out on top with the trophy held over your head and continue organizing your guys' Wisconsin fight camp?
Well, I think I'm going to become the ringleader of the fight camp and help
Okay.
others make it to finals. I'm not saying I'm retiring because I
Okay.
could see myself compete again maybe in a couple years, but
Okay.
I think I am going to take a step back for at least a year or two. Um, I think I heard Matt Morris say something in his interview where it was like, we try to change up the workouts of the games every year because we want to see a different winner every year. And the experience of winning, that was so special that I want other people to experience that too. And so obviously if I competed again, I would want to win again, but I want someone else to have that. And so I'm going to take a step back. I just turned 37, so I'm not saying I'm out. I was gonna, take a break until I turned 40 when that was the master's age, but you guys changed that up. So maybe I'll just take a couple of years off and then come back.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't hold you to that, but I do hear that when you come back, you'll have to then take the crown from somebody else, and that's the you'll no longer have it because there
Those
will
are
be a
not my
champion.
words.
No, no, no. It's just a jokingly
Yeah.
competitive thing internally. Like like you and Megan, you guys want to you are competing. Like you're going
Hmm.
hand in hand. But I know in your head, it's also like you want her to do really well, and she wants you to do really well, and it's so cool that you want to see that
Absolutely.
somebody else be able to inspire their community the same way that you have. But I have a feeling that you're keeping it on the table for a reason. You've been a competitor your whole life, and once you have competitive bones in your body, they don't usually go away.
No.
They just kind of linger, and there's a time for an expansion and an aggression, and there's time for relaxation and contraction. And so I hear you on that, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you one day soon. But it will not be next year, everyone. Amber will be leading the ring of Wisconsin
Yes.
Warriors.
I will be there. I'll be there in the crowd. I'll be there cheering everyone else on. So,
Yeah, I stood next to Maggie Bellows, who won last year
yeah.
in the standard division. She got a chance to see Liza win, and so that was cool standing there next to her. and we were next to Morgan's father, Larry, as well, and I call him LB, and LB and I are standing there talking to last year's champion, and it was cool because she got a chance to break down to us. She was like real time commentating to us what was going on, or to him what was going on, and it was great. So maybe LB and I will see you in the crowd next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cheering your team on. What do you want people to know about this journey that you haven't talked about, or what advice might you have, whether it's a member or a trainer, to ultimately jump into anything that scares them a little bit? Any parting words here, Amber?
Just trust yourself. Trust in what you know. Know that it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, but then get back up and keep going. And just speak kindly to yourself. You live with yourself forever. You're the one person that truly lives with you forever. So how do you want that dialogue to go? Speak kindly to yourself, and just lift yourself up, and just, always try to be positive. But
well, I know that's as simple as it is sometimes, right? It's just being aware of the self, and being able to talk to yourself how you would want people to speak to your children, or something like that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. It's inspiring to see you compete year after year after year, to see your mom, as you won the championship, just be beside herself, and to see the community pour in to Amber in the championship, and for you to give it right back to them where it belongs. You're doing this for them, and because of them, you're motivated to show them, our members, our other trainers in Bird Nation, what they're made of, by putting it all on the line yourself. And that you did, my friend. You put every ounce of you on the line.
I did. I gave everything I have.
And you have the hardware to show for it. So congratulations to you.
Thank you
again.
so much.
And we appreciate you being taking time out of your busy day to be on the podcast with me, and for answering my questions. And it won't be the last that we see of Amber here, everybody, but share this podcast with any members that are considering level up games, or any trainers that are considering going into athlete games. It'll just be so important for them to hear from somebody like Amber, who has been deep in the water. We call it, like, you take yourself to the deep in the pits during these things, and you come out of them a better human being for having done so. And certainly a fine human being going in, and even better person coming out.
Yes,
so we appreciate you very much, Amber, and you're a big part of Bird Nation. Congratulations,
Thank you.
champ.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on this. And seriously, guys, give it a try. You don't want to miss out on it. It's an awesome experience. So do it.
All right, y'all, go see Amber on Tuesday nights in Verona,
Wisconsin. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk to you soon. We'll end it like we always do. 2 claps on 2.